her box is down there. So I think there we are.
Hey.
Hello.
All right. I made it.
Good work.
Okay, you're good to go.
All right, thanks, Neil. All right, with that, we will call this July 29th meeting of the City of Kalamazoo Planning Commission to order. Can we have a roll call, please?
Chambers,
Present.
Ellis,
Here.
Espinosa,
Here.
Greenman Wright,
Here.
Milliken.
Here.
Patelko,
Here.
Pitts, Bias,
Here.
Wisner.
Great, thank you. We have a quorum. We were presented or sent to us an agenda for tonight's evening. Are there any changes to the agenda?
No, just a quick clarification that I believe it says the annual report is for 2018. I think it's technically for 2019. Since we're in 2020, it's kind of the report for the last year. So just a little typo.
Okay. Good. So with that modification, can I get a motion to approve the agenda for tonight's meeting?
Motion move.
Support.
Motion by Espinosa, support by Greenman Wright. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Good. Agenda is adopted. We're also sent the minutes from our meeting of May 7th, 2020. For any comments, edits, changes, questions on those minutes? Not seeing any or hearing any. Can we get a motion to approve the minutes from May 7th?
I move to approve the minutes from May 7th Planning Commission meeting.
All right. Motion by Alice, support by Chambers. And can we get a vote on the motion to approve the minutes? All in favor of the motion, sorry. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Good. Any opposed? Excellent. The minutes are approved. Are there any communications or announcements?
No, there are none at this time.
Fantastic. Any new business?
Not at this time.
Seeing none, we'll move into public hearing. And just a reminder of how public comment is collected. Folks have had an opportunity to leave a comment starting at 6:30. The phone number, again, 269-226. My dog will tell you. Sorry about that. 269-226-67, or 269, we'll try one more time. 226-6573. 226-6573. The window opened up at 6:30. It will close at the conclusion of each of the two public hearing items at the close of the public comment period. So there will be an opportunity at each of the two items that we have this evening, as well as an opportunity later in the agenda for non-agenda items for citizen comments. So we will listen to any voicemails that are left for us on these items at those times. So without further ado, we'll start with PC 2020.10, a request to rezone lots along Fellows and Baroque from the CC zone and the CN1 zone to the RM36 zone. Can we hear from the planning department?
Sure, and I'm going to do a screen share here. So who we have joining us tonight, we've got Matt Lager, the Executive Director of KNHS, and Matt Milzarek is also with us. So I'll do the staff overview, and then I'll turn it over to Mr. Lager to follow up with additional information. Let's see here.
If I can interrupt real quick, I'm gonna turn my video off. I have to abstain from this item of the agenda. So, because I am a member of the board of KNHS, who's the applicant in this case. So, I'm gonna step down from the virtual podium and leave it in your hands. So, sorry, I should have said that earlier, but I was so engrossed in the process and I forgot about the detail there. So, thank you.
So Emily, when it comes time to lead the discussion, you'll be leading that for us, okay?
All right. Got all the business taken care of. Let's see if we can pull this together. Okay, so everybody should see the files here. Okay. That's throwing it up on the wrong screen. Is everybody able to view that? It's not as big as it should be. Let's see.
Have a good view.
Okay,
Yeah, it's okay.
it's okay.
Mhm.
I mean, it should be viewable from in this format just fine, since we're not in the commission chambers. Okay, so we have 5 lots that are proposed for rezoning. Some are in CC, some are in CN1. They're all owned by KNHS. As you can see on the layout here, as far as the Fellows Street one is the only one that is split zoned right now between the RM36 and Zone CC. And then we have 3 lots in CN1 on Burr Oak and 1 lot in Zone CC. When we look at the the existing land use, you get a flavor for the mix of this area. Obviously, the yellow is residential, the red is commercial. So you've got the car sales lot on the corner of Burr Oak and South Burdick Street. On the south side of Burr Oak Street, there's a commercial office building. So looking at this, you can see it's a real mix of vacant lots, residentially occupied lots, and then some sporadic commercial in that area.
Mhm.
And just looking more specifically at the 1 lot on Fellows Avenue, there is a single family home to the west, and to the north, there's residential as well. And then of course to the east. So this, as indicated in the staff report, it talks about this narrow residential street. Here's the view to the south. So it, we do have this is the, neighborhood edge /R2 when you look at the future land use map, but it's, this Fellows Avenue, this court per se, is really residential in nature. And then we get down to Burr Oak Street, and to the west, we've got a residential home on the corner of South Rose and Burr Oak. To the north of Burr Oak Street, you're looking at the back of the homes that are on Fellows Avenue. And then if we look to the east towards the corner of Burr Oak and South Burdick, that's where the car sales location is. That upper picture shows one of the single family homes owned by KNHS. And then there's essentially a vacant lot to the right of it there between that and the commercial building. To the south, to the south of those lots, on the south side of Burr Oak Street, is the office building and associated parking lot. And then here's the future land use layout, which gets us into, you can see where that neighborhood edge, the neighborhood edge and the R2 residential come together. And, that's where we really wanted to focus on, how these lots were laid out in the past, that they're either vacant currently or occupied by a residential structure. There is a variety of mixed residential structures and vacant lots on both these blocks. The South Burdick area is really, you get over to South Burdick and that's more of the commercial corridor. And then as you work your way towards the west, you're kind of going into the Vine neighborhood and it's more residentially oriented in nature. So as far as the intent here, this does work towards alignment with the future land use. Let's go here right now. This does work towards alignment with the future land use map and the 2025 master plan. KNHS is proposing infill housing for these sites. And all these properties will, add to our housing capacity. There is, a variety of uses in the area, but the predominant use is residential for this, this interior area of the block. And these lots are rather small in scale, not very developable from a commercial perspective. The outreach that was done, we, the planning staff, of course, sent out our normal notices for 300-foot vicinity around the lots in question. And KNHS reached out to the Vine Neighborhood Association. They had a board meeting on July 21st. And the letter I emailed to the board members earlier today was the letter of support that came out of that July 21st Vine Neighborhood Association meeting. In addition to that, KNHS has done outreach in the form of letters to the adjacent property owners, and then they created flyers that were sent out to 3 additional parcels, essentially in each direction of this area that was being rezoned. So they did a good job of blanketing the area to get the word out on this. Under the review criteria, just a few items to touch on there, that the commercial, when we talk about the consistency with the 2025 master plan, I have already mentioned that this does align the zoning map better with the future land use map. The extent there is changed conditions that require an amendment. We look at this area and we look at the way it's currently zoned and the way the land is currently being utilized. And the commercial zoning applied decades ago has really not brought about any significant change, at least in the interior of the block, which we believe is part, because of the traffic flow, because that's more of a residential area, but also in part to the size of the lots, which are rather small. As many of them were intended for single family homes. The city is also, through the master plan 2025 is encouraging adding additional housing units. When we look at the other, compatibility issues involved here, the zone RM36 does extend up to all these properties. So it's a logical extension of the RM36 zone district, and it falls in line with the surrounding land use pattern. So just to sum that up, so we have better alignment of zoning map with future land use map. Lots are small interior lots on each block adjacent to other residential structures. Proposed infill housing will result in 5 new homes. The rezoning supports the strategic vision goal of the complete neighborhoods by creating a variety of housing types, and the master plan encourages adding housing units in and around the downtown. Thank you.
Are there any technical questions for staff? May we hear from the applicant, please?
Hi there. I'm Matt Lager. I'm the Executive Director of KNHS Homeownership Services. I'll give you a little context for where this project fits into some nonprofit efforts that have been going on for several years now. And then I'm going to turn it over to Matt Milzarek, who can talk real specifically about the houses that we're proposing to build in this area. So KNHS is a nonprofit corporation. Our mission is to foster home ownership and revitalize neighborhoods. We work with low and moderate income homeowners and potential homeowners or prospective homeowners. We've been in Kalamazoo working in the neighborhoods for 38 years now, focusing most of our resources and energy on the Vine neighborhood, North Side, Edison, and East Side, Fairmont and Oakwood at times, as well as Stewart. This project right here grew out of a group of nonprofits coming together after the last recession. This quadrant of Vine focused around Rose Street, Burr Oak, a couple of the courts, had homeowners that were voicing a lot of concern to the neighborhood association about deteriorating conditions. There were a number of mortgage foreclosures and tax foreclosures. Seems like a long time ago now, since we've had great markets for a while. But at that time, this area was really challenged and struggling. Building Blocks, another nonprofit, the Vine Neighborhood Association, Community Homeworks, KNHS, Kalamazoo Collective Housing, the Land Bank, as well as the City of Kalamazoo all came together. And after a series of meetings, we sort of pooled our energies in this area and all determined that we would dedicate resources for the next couple of years in this area. That turned into dozens and dozens of projects. Community Homeworks led a porch light project or a front yard light project. Building Blocks did some long-term organizing of residents there. Kalamazoo Collective Housing purchased and then deployed some of its houses for its programming. KNHS did a couple of lease purchase projects and several roof replacements. The Land Bank and the County Treasurer both rehabbed and sold houses, as well as demoed some houses that had become obsolete after tax foreclosure. About 4 years ago, we had been deep in this area for a while, and a group of property owners that had some common ownership of about 12 lots in this area, 12 parcels, were strongly desiring to get out of there. Along Fellows, those houses you saw along there now, those at that time were all vacant except for 2 houses. The houses on Burr Oak that you saw, where we proposed to build, were struggling. There'd just been a couple of demos there. If you recall, the original Ladies Library Association was on Burr Oak there, and it had really deteriorated, started to collapse actually, and the city or some entity demoed that. When all of these parcels came together, we saw this as a way to finalize that stability that we'd been working at for a long time there. With purchasing those 12 parcels, we have now rehabbed and sold 4 of those. We've got 2 more slotted to be sold. We partnered with Kalamazoo Collective Housing to rehab and program another one of those houses. And we just recently entered into an agreement in which the Public Housing Commission purchased another house, all for residential use, all of these houses. And in line with our mission focused on low and moderate income residents under 80% AMI. Over the course of the past year, in partnership with the Home Builders Association, the City of Kalamazoo, and LISC, we have been building houses as infill throughout the neighborhood. Last year was a pilot year, and we're looking to take the lessons learned from that and build 4 new houses on these lots now. Again, this is focused on low and moderate income home ownership. The Foundation for Excellence is providing some of the funding that makes this possible, because the houses we propose to build cost, just in round numbers, about $185,000, not including all the soft costs that we'll worry about. Whereas we've got appraised values of homes that will sell here in the 140s. So there's a pretty significant subsidy to make this possible for low and moderate income homeowners. With the homeowners that we hope to put in there, we have at KNHS, we help people with credit repair and mortgage readiness. So we've got at any given time, a few dozen customers that are shopping for mortgages and houses. Each year we help about 100 low and moderate income households become homeowners. And we anticipate with our clients' demand for, really the great houses that we've been building in partnership with the Home Builders Association, that we'll find really excited buyers for these houses. And I'll turn it over to Matt to talk about the other Matt at KNHS to talk about some of the neat features on these houses.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for your time tonight. Yeah, I'm really excited about this project we have here. Taking our pilot project from this past year with KNHS, the City, Foundation for Excellence, Home Builders Association, and LISC, and focusing our efforts in one geographic area that we've been working at for the past decade here. This home is a 2-story home. We built one in East Side, Vine, Edison, and Edison neighborhood last year, and over in Douglas neighborhood. And this year we're going to have the same model with some modifications based on feedback from our buyers last year. So it'll be 4-bedroom and 3-bedroom models. These are historically appropriate infill designs, so they fit in the neighborhood. They'll look appropriate there. And of course, we'll be doing the appropriate setbacks to match the block and historic use there. We also have something very exciting this year with these projects, which is a partnership pilot project with Consumers Energy, where these homes are going to be very energy efficient, all electric pilot projects with them. And the homeowners in these should be having very low energy costs, because they're also going to be have solar rigs on the roofs here. So that's a pilot we're going into this year, and we're going to be tracking the energy usage and the savings that people have. And of course, that's just another aspect that'll be making this affordable for low-income people in the neighborhoods. So that's sort of the brush strokes of it. This is a very high quality home with our Home Builder Association builders. Very nice finishes, very appropriate. Even though we make sure that these are affordable for our low income residents, the quality of the home is the same as you'd see from these builders on any lot throughout the county. So we're very proud of the product we have. And the buyers we've had from this past round moving into these neighborhoods has been they've been very satisfied with the quality. So we're excited to put some more in the neighborhood. And glad to answer any questions if anyone has any.
I have a question. Yeah, okay. I guess I'll go. Matt Lager mentioned the people who are going to be going in the houses are folks need credit repair and mortgage help and that kind of stuff. So I'm just slightly confused. Are they going to be to own the properties or for rental and transition to somewhere else, or which one of the two?
All these properties will be for home ownership.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions for our presenter? Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and open the public hearing.
And we do have 2 comments that'll be played.
Yes, my name is Tina McClinton. I live at 310 Lake Street, Kalamazoo, Michigan, 49001. I was calling and asking you to vote no on this because all the Southtown neighbors don't even know. I'm Southtown neighborhood. We don't even know of this. And we need to have a discussion. We should have been involved in this planning since this is our neighborhood that you are affecting. So my comment is to ask you to say no to RM36 without informing Southtown neighborhood of what's going on. Since you're affecting our neighborhood, I think we should have been notified of it. And to have a meeting like this is wrong without notifying people. Thank you very much. Phone number here is 269-344-7419. Bye.
My name is Richard Stewart. I reside at 828 Portage Street in the Southtown neighborhood. I wanted to bring to the commissioner's attention that Peter Eldridge misstated and presented a slide that the parcels at 914 and 908 were yellow and residential existing. That is simply not true. I sold those properties not too long ago to the hospital. They tore down the property and it was zoned CC. I fought very hard to keep it CC and that raised my value. And so Peter knows very well that that's not residential. Should not have been yellow in your slide. But my call today is mainly to ask that you vote no on today's measure until this can be presented to the Southtown neighborhood, which it borders this property exactly. It was never brought to us to discuss, present to our neighbors along that pathway on Burdick Street. And so we've been, again, excluded from the conversation. So we're here again to ask that you vote no until we can at least be part of the conversation. A high-density residential like RM36 can have negative influence on surrounding properties, and I don't think that under the circumstances, good faith was done to include the neighbors. I'm hoping you'll vote no today, or at least postpone this until the Southtown neighborhood can be consulted, and we would still like to submit the Southtown neighborhood plan to be considered with all other neighborhoods before you go and rezone these properties. We continue to be excluded, and it's well known that we exist. Thank you.
Are there any other callers?
No, there was just 2. Those were the two call-ins we had for this public hearing.
Okay, with that, we'll close the public hearing. Are there any other questions for staff before we entertain a motion? Okay, I'm panning across the screen. Hang on. Okay, Seeing none, can I have a motion to move to discussion? Anyone?
I'll move to close the public hearing and move to discussion.
Oh, didn't we close the public hearing?
No. Yep.
Oh, sorry.
Hang on.
I don't have my list. Sorry, guys.
Hang
All right,
on, I'll
so
scroll it.
Okay, sorry. So
So typically, it's a motion to move, approve the item in front of you, and then you discuss it.
okay. That's where I was headed, right? I was in the right direction. Okay, public hearing closed. We need a motion now on the item.
Okay, I'll start again. So I'll move for PC number 2020.10 to rezone the subject of lots from zone CN1 and zone CC to zone RM36. And the lots are 118 Fellows Avenue, 110, 114, 120, and 124 Burr Oak Street.
Is there support?
For
Okay, supported by Commissioner Espinoza. May we have discussion on the motion? Would Commissioner Vyas like to speak to it?
Well, this seems like a great plan from KNHS. I do appreciate the research that goes into rezoning, and especially knowing that the lots are going to be put to a use that is aligned with our plans for Imagine Kalamazoo and generally strengthening our zones. But with that, I do want to ask a question of staff, and that's about like informing neighborhoods. It sounds like the two callers maybe didn't know what was going on as far as rezoning. I know these are strange times that we're in, and we can't exactly go around holding neighborhood meetings. Can you talk about maybe some of the protocol that you've been using to inform neighbors about upcoming zoning changes or things that we're working on?
Sure. I mean, we should probably first say that if you take a look at the neighborhood map for the city, these properties are in the Vine neighborhood.
Yeah.
The Vine neighborhood was consulted by the applicants, and a letter was provided to this board as a result of their interaction. And I believe Pete also mentioned the activities that were done for outreach, and those are typical activities, right? So door knocking, passing out flyers, doing mailers. Those are all things that would be done whether we are, in our current scenario or not in our current scenario. We do, on occasion, applicants do meetings where they actually host a meeting. It is not currently required. And there are other methods that are being used. So I think for the most part, the typical process was used here.
Yeah, thanks, Christina. I just wanted that stated following the questions that were brought forward from the callers.
Yep. So it's a 300-foot mailing radius.
Mm-hmm.
So we pulled all those properties together on one map and then did a 300-foot radius around them for the city mailings, as well as sending an email to Steve Walsh, the Vine Neighborhood Executive Director, to give him specific details on the rezoning proposed. Of course, he had already heard from Matt Lager, and they had it scheduled for a Vine Neighborhood board meeting. So those are our steps as far as our required. The noticing is required per the state statute for the surrounding properties, and then we reach out to the neighborhood in which those parcels are located. And then we encourage the applicant, as Christina mentioned, to do additional outreach to really make sure that, that folks are informed that are immediately impacted in the area being rezoned. Thank you.
Thanks.
I had a question for the applicant. As far as the program and getting people's credit repaired and home ownership, what typically is the process like from start to finish and getting them inside a brand new home?
Oh my gosh, I love that question. We are a NeighborWorks America organization. There's about 250 of us across the country in most major metropolitan markets, and then sort of areas like Kalamazoo that have an urban core. We're also a HUD certified counseling agency. So we provide home buyer education. We do that both online and in person, although right now that is just offered on both Zoom and through some online resources we have. Then we have homeownership coaches who work on both financial capabilities and sort of mortgage readiness and talking and thinking about the realities of home ownership and what that means for people. Typically, our education portion is an 8-hour course. After that, we pull a full tri-merge credit report, which is exactly what the mortgage lenders pull. Through that, we're able to go through and help our customers see how the ultimate loan officer is going to evaluate them. In that process, we come up with a customer action plan for everyone. And we very specifically use the word coaching because we're not counseling people on what to do. We're really helping people achieve their goal of home ownership. And people, through the education program realize that the mortgage is often the key. So those action plans that customers develop can last anywhere from a few months to sometimes a number of years. The KNHS coaches then meet with each of our customers on a monthly basis. Sometimes when they're working on some pieces of that, they can meet on a quarterly basis. At the end of the day, when the customer has sort of achieved their goals on their plan, they then sort of do an assessment. Is a mortgage loan officer, is the underwriter going to say yes to you? And when our coaches have a pretty high confidence through their training that they're going to get a yes when they go out and shop for the mortgage on the market, we give referrals to a number of lenders in the area, and then sort of assist both the lender and our customer getting from that point to closing. In partnership with the city and some other funders, we have down payment assistance available to incentivize folks and to make that journey easier. We follow the national industry standards for homeownership coaching and financial capabilities coaching, as well as meeting all of the HUD requirements. So that's our business. That's the heart and soul of sort of what KNHS does. And we see about 300 customers a year. And as I think I mentioned, and I'm super proud of this number, we have about 100 people a year that achieve home ownership.
I have a question for staff. My question, just piggybacking, going off of the 2 voicemails that we have and looking at the map, you said that we're definitely talking about the Vine neighborhood, because I know where Lake Street sits at and where Porter Street sits at. And those two aren't a part of that because that's not the Vine neighborhood. I just wanted to make sure that that was all on the same page, if I'm correct.
The addresses that were stated by the callers don't fall into the Vine neighborhood according to the city's map.
Okay. Gotcha. That's what I just wanted to make sure, because I was like, I know my zone is not off, but I just wanted to make sure that I was looking at the same map correctly. Thank you.
Yeah, and if anybody wanted clarification on the comment about the current land use, it does show in yellow this lot at the corner of Fellows and South Burdick Street. I mean, we don't have a category necessarily for mixed use, but there was residential along with an office on that property for years that Mr. Stewart owned. And so he was saying that it's really zone, it is zone commercial, but it did have a residential unit on it. So I think that's why the current land use showed like that, which obviously we haven't updated that recently and need to keep doing that. So anyways, so we'll take care of that.
Are there any other questions? Any other discussion? Are we ready for a vote?
Are you ready for a roll call?
I think so.
Okay.
Wisner? Are you doing okay there, Corinne? Sorry.
Helper. Wisner? I'm sorry, Commissioner Wisner, I didn't hear your vote. Bias?
Yes.
Pitts? Patelco?
Yes.
Milliken? Abstaining. Greenman Wright? Commissioner Greenman Wright?
Sorry.
It's okay, we can hear you. Oh.
You can hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Espinosa?
Yes.
Ellis?
Yes.
Chambers?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
And thanks, Pete and Christina, for all your work and help on this.
You're welcome.
Want to keep going, Emily? Okay. All right. Thanks, everyone. We'll keep going then with just a reminder, if you have comment on the next item, we'll still accept those comments at 226-6573 until we get to the conclusion of the public comment period on this next item, which is PC 2020.0 or 2020.11, the presentation of the Parkview Hills Neighborhood Plan for incorporation in the 2025 Master Plan. Staff, you want to walk us through this?
Sure, thank you. Katie Riley is our neighborhood planner, our neighborhood activator, is currently attending the Complete Streets Coalition meeting tonight. So I will be introducing Parkview Hills and the representative Greg Nakin in just a moment, but a couple of things. First, for those that are keeping count, this is neighborhood plan number 7 that we have co-done with our neighborhoods in the city of Kalamazoo that have been before you for incorporation into the master plan. Greg Nakin is here tonight, and he will be, he's part of the planning committee and will be speaking to the plan. A couple things to point out, and that this process for this neighborhood plan really started with the creation or the recreation of the Neighborhood Association for Parkview Hills. A group that has continued to meet and organize even after the planning pieces for this document were done. They used a variety of techniques to engage their residents and stakeholders, including focus groups, community events, meetings, and one-on-one discussions. And Parkview Hills, we should know, it is different than a lot of our other neighborhoods because it was all created at once as a planned unit development. It was, quite interesting to negotiate, the roles of the city and property management. It just has different issues to discuss than some of our other neighborhoods, which makes it unique. The plan focuses on the strategic vision goals of connected city, inviting public places, environmental responsibility, safe community, youth development, complete neighborhood, and good governance. And for more details, I'd like to introduce Greg Nakin from Parkview Hills.
Well, thank you, Christina. Well, you kind of summarized a little bit of what I was going to say here. So great. I've got about a 5-minute presentation. Not having done this before, is that within the time frame of what we have? Okay. And you can hear me fine, everybody? Okay. Yeah, our neighborhood is probably, I think, the most recent neighborhood in Kalamazoo. The development began in the 1970s. It was a vision of two friends, actually, H. Lewis Batts and Burton Upjohn. And for those of us who have been in the city a long time, those names probably ring a little bit of familiarity. H. Lewis Batts is the developer of the Kalamazoo Nature Center. And Burton Upjohn, of course, from the Upjohn family in Kalamazoo, a long history. So it was Mr. Batts' vision and Mr. Upjohn's money, which helped to develop this. Their dream was to develop 290 acres on the city's southwest side into a planned community to provide residences of many types that would allow residents to coexist with the natural features and be respectful of the environment. It was one of the first PUDs, or planned unit developments, in the country at that time, and probably one of the first planned unit development, I'm assuming, in Kalamazoo and possibly even the state of Michigan. Parkview Hills reflects the philosophy of a commitment to environmental sustainability within a relatively densely populated area. And to this day, it remains a beautiful piece of property with rolling hills, water features, and miles of walking trails. The residences themselves were developed to fit along the natural contours of the property. Parkview Hills is actually governed by an elected board of neighborhood residents, and that's known as the Parkview Hills Community Association. So we kind of are unique in that way that we do have an elected board here within this neighborhood to help guide and direct us from the financial standpoint. We do have approximately 1,900 residents. There are 776 housing units comprised of 9 different condominium associations here, 2 apartment complexes, and several individual homes. So that's kind of a basic history of where we were developed. We started this planning process actually in 2018 for the neighborhood plan. It was started by a resident by the name of Arthur Falk. He coordinated a group of residents to create the first planning committee. That was prior to the Neighborhood Association of Parkview Hills being created. He was a member of the Parkview Hills Community Association Board and had foresight and understood the need for a neighborhood association. So this committee met with the neighborhood activator, Katie Riley, and I want to give a shout out to her because I really I cannot underestimate the value that she has been to us in working through this plan. There were a number of people who contributed, a number of residents, a number of people from the city, and rather than me going through each and every individual's name, we do have that available in the plan. We tried our best to include as many of the names that we could as possible. But Katie Riley was really a key component here, and I just want to give her a little kudos for this. So the committee, the original committee, met with the neighborhood activator, who was Katie Riley, to better understand the planning process for initiating a neighborhood association and its relation to the Imagine Kalamazoo 2025 program. And as Christina said, there was a neighborhood association in Parkview Hills many years ago. It had waned, and so we just restarted that again in early of 2019. So we created the Neighborhood Association of Parkview Hills in conjunction with the Parkview Hills Community Association, which is our board. So in April of 19, NAF began, Neighborhood Association of Parkview Hills, and we continued to work on the work that had been initiated by Arthur Falk and his committee. Throughout 2019, there were meetings with city employees regarding traffic safety concerns that residents had indicated. We had focus groups that were implemented, and social gatherings were undertaken to solicit ideas and opinions from the residents here in Parkview Hills. This information was then collated and incorporated into the neighborhood plan, that you have in front of you. In March of this year, our plan was finished and is now submitted to you for review and approval and incorporated into the Imagine Kalamazoo 2025 framework. There's a couple of things that I just want to point out that have already been accomplished as a result of this, and maybe some of the benefits to our community. Under a goal heading of create a safe and accessible neighborhood, or create a safe and accessible pedestrian network, our neighborhood was developed in the 1970s without sidewalks. I am assuming it was thought of at that time that people would be getting their recreation from the trail system that has been developed in the neighborhood. But through the years, many people walk along Greenleaf Boulevard, Greenleaf Circle, etc. And Greenleaf Boulevard is a fairly expansive street. It allows or invites a little bit of speeding beyond the 25-mile-per-hour posted speed. A number of people felt unsafe. It's been very difficult here to look at sidewalks or look at sidewalks because of the cost and the limited space that is available because of the contours of the land. So an idea that came to fruition in meeting with the city was the installation of 2 speed monitors that will indicate driver's speed, record the time and speed, and forward this info to KPS for future implementation of traffic surveillance, thereby hopefully slowing the speed and improving the pedestrian safety along the boulevard and street. I believe these might be the first installed here in the city, and the monitors themselves have not been installed, but currently the support structures have been installed and we're waiting for those to come in. And I think that will be a valuable addition to our neighborhood because it will hopefully slow down the speed. It will allow KPS to kind of tailor when maybe traffic surveillance is best accommodated to hopefully slow down the traffic here. We have a number of goals under the environmental responsible neighborhood category. And throughout the focus groups that we had, a number of people indicated goals that were along that line. And basically they reflect the founding principles of the neighborhood's founders, but they were also current concerns that people had. One of the things that I wanted to point out is we're reducing the impact of invasive species here in the neighborhood, and that has been ongoing. We have a couple of committees also here in the neighborhood, the Natural Area Stewardship Committee and the Trails Committee, and they've been very helpful in that endeavor. We've also looked at addressing the erosion and catchment basins throughout the neighborhood, which are ongoing with the Parkview Hills Community Association Board. The catchment basins and drainage goes into Cherry Creek, which is part of the local watershed of which Asylum Lake is attached to. We are, for lack of a better word, south of Asylum Lake. Asylum Lake flows into Little Asylum, which flows into Cherry Creek, which is on our property, which we have several catchment basins that flow into our catchment basin, which flows into Lake Hillenbrook, which flows into Atwater Mill Pond, which eventually ends up in Lake Michigan. So you can see how the watershed here in this area is interconnected. And Parkview Hills had a number of residents who expressed a lot of concern about the past property development on the north side of Asylum Lake on Stadium Drive, primarily because anything that is done on that end of Asylum Lake will eventually affect the quality of water in our neighborhood also. We're all connected. So those are a couple of the goals that I can highlight now that have emanated from this. I guess when we look at the future, I think that the immediate challenge for not only our neighborhood, but for all neighborhoods right now is the number one, sustaining the viability of the Neighborhood Association of Parkview Hills, because the COVID-19 pandemic has certainly influenced all of the neighborhood associations, I believe, and including your meeting here today. It certainly challenges us. But I think that is an immediate challenge. But the one thing that I truly believe about these neighborhood plans is that once once they have completed, whether they're completed in the process of completion or at the beginning stages of formation, that they act as a future reference and guidance for all the neighbors, regardless of the people that come in and out of these committees or the neighborhood associations. So I think that having something on paper like this, that we can partner with the city to complete goals and projects as outlined in the Imagine Kalamazoo 2025 plan. So I believe the plans are a reference point for our civic engagement. And I'm just happy that we were able to complete ours here in Parkview Hills and contribute to that. So without being further wordy, I just want to say thank you for your time, and thanks for reviewing the plan. And hopefully we can incorporate that into the city's Imagine Kalamazoo 2025 plan. And
thank you for that. At this time, before we open public comment, are there any immediate questions for either Mr. Nakin or the staff?
Oh, I have a question.
Yes.
For Mr. Nathan. My question, you were talking about the monitors that were going to be like tracking the speeds. When do you guys see them being installed? Do you have a set date yet, especially due to COVID?
We do not at this point have a date. I think that's up to the city, the traffic engineering department. I'm not, to my knowledge, they as of yet do not have these signs or these monitors. I mean, everything has been put in place. We're just waiting for those monitors and then that to be initiated. So I can't answer that question specifically. Maybe the traffic engineering department would have better knowledge on that. And it might have been influenced by COVID at this point too. So.
Gotcha. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions?
How about just
I know what.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
No, go ahead, sir.
Well, it's just a quick observation when I'm looking through the plan in general. I think it's a great plan. But when I looked at, for instance, the partners to be engaged, I see, WMU, especially when I go down into the environmental part, I see a lot of Nature Center, NASZ, the association, Consumers Energy. I'm struggling to find the city of Kalamazoo, and I wonder. I mean, in previous plans, we've seen that the city of Kalamazoo is there, but I don't see it specifically. I can't find it on where the city will hope to contribute to achieve these goals that were already set up, especially when the work was done with, for instance, with Kaylee, with our neighborhood activator. And I don't know if that comes as a question, as an observation. Either way you want to take it. It's just an observation from my part, I guess.
Can you reference a page number for me, please?
I'm just looking. I mean, I'm going from page to the very last page, 29, and I'm just looking at the action neighborhood partners. Well, I see the city here, I guess, next to the.
Right, the city has its own column because we partner with so many activities. We tend to break it into two columns. So other partners to be engaged and other partners who might participate, and then the city. So each of the action tables will have roles for the neighborhood or tasks for the neighborhood, other folks, outside folks to engage, and then the actions that the city will take. But we're not listed in that partners to be engaged column because we just have our own column.
Oh, that's exclusive. Okay. Yeah, that it makes sense. But I feel like in previous plans, and I might be misspoken here, but I feel like in previous plans we've seen Cedar Kalamazoo as a partner.
Well, initially that took my breath away a little bit because that is the primary goal here. But yes, at the top of the pages, you can see the category. The city is an integral part of the plan. So, yeah.
One more observation. I think it's awesome that you already have some of those things complete. I remember I'm myself involved with the Oakwood Neighborhood Association, and in the past I have conversations with Cheryl in regards to like what's going on in Parkview Hills and how's that, how can we work together with to achieve many of these goals that we have in common, especially the environmental goals. They're very realistic, and we need to really partner up.
We're neighbors. Yes.
We are only steps away.
Yeah.
That's all. Sorry.
Thank you.
The question I was going to ask, I noticed as I looked through this, there was, and I'll admit I didn't read every word, but I didn't notice any reference to the commercial section of the neighborhood that's along Parkview. And I'm not saying that's good or bad. Can you speak to that at all? Was that on purpose? Is that because it's such a small segment of the neighborhood relative to everything else? Is it just not one of the goals? It's in pretty good shape, whereas these other things are priorities. What was the thinking as you put that together?
Well, yes, we do not share a commercial corridor with any neighborhood or along the main street, of course, that accesses our neighborhood is Oakland Drive, or not Oakland Drive, Parkview. But we do within Parkview Hills have a small retail area that is actually a privately owned. It is within our neighborhood, but it is not part of Parkview Hills, to my understanding. And we did reach out to the owner of and the owners of that, including the owners of the Millennium Restaurant Group, which is Martell's, is located in our neighborhood. And they did not have any specific concerns. In fact, they were content with what we had listed in our plan. They did not provide us with any input in that regard. So we really didn't have a lot of commercial goals simply because we don't share any commercial property here really, or along the roadway. It may be something to look at in the future as our road is going to be redeveloped, I understand, in 2021, at least Parkview Avenue, relative to some of the business that is further east of us, in the Oakwood neighborhood, actually. But I don't know if that satisfies your question, but we really don't have much commercial space here.
It was just it was something that I noticed, and so I wanted to ask and see what the thinking was, and that sort of explains where you're at. And obviously, if it didn't come up in any of your meetings, it's not a concern that the residents have. There's no rising issue that's bubbling up and prompting conversation about it as there are with some of these other ones. So
that's right.
Good to know.
The other thing that is unique is our neighborhood has been completely developed. There is not space that will be utilized for any further commercial development, any further residential development. I mean, it is a planned unit development, so it's kind of, I don't want to say full, but there won't be any changes to that, to my knowledge. So it's a unique neighborhood. It's a different neighborhood in a lot of ways in that regard. So.
All right. Any other immediate questions at the moment? If not, are there any public comments that were submitted on this item?
Out of curiosity, is Greenleaf Boulevard, that's a city street, or is that privately?
Yes, it is a city street, Greenleaf Boulevard, which turns into Greenleaf Circle, which, as it says, is a complete circle through the neighborhood. There are several other smaller ancillary streets here in the neighborhood that are city streets. The streets that are associated with the actual condominium associations themselves are private, that we as the individual condominium association maintain, but the city is responsible for maintaining the boulevard and the circle and some of the smaller streets in the neighborhood.
Mr. Chair, to answer the question on public comments, we have not received any comments this evening.
Okay. Well, with that, I'll close the public hearing on this item. and ask one last time, is there any clarifying questions for the applicant or staff?
I had a question. Just for the applicant, and also for the staff. I noticed on the staff page there was comments or suggestions. I didn't know if that was taken into consideration as part of public comments. But just a question, just happy 50 years. I know it's 2020, and you guys being the youngest, I wanted to know, girls, just for the applicant, I just wanted to know what neighborhood kind of inspires you all to keep going, and also, I know it fell off before. How do you continue to sustain yourself like other neighborhoods have?
How do we continue to sustain ourselves? Well, each, from a financial perspective, you know, of course, we pay taxes to the city of Kalamazoo, but the other thing is each individual residence here is assessed an assessment. Whether it be the condominiums, the individual homes, the apartment complexes are assessed in aggregate based upon the number of units, rental units that they have. So that money is utilized then to sustain the Parkview Hills Community Association Board has control over that. And that is what sustains what we would consider our group sort of public property here. Sustains the trails, the waterways, any of the walkways. So that is how we sustain the neighborhood in that regard. Again, this was a planned unit development around condominium and home residence and apartments. So there is a budget that is generated every year as a result of that. And then the Parkview Hills Community Association Board is in charge of maintaining the property based upon that income.
All right. Anything else? If not, I'll take a motion on this item. Remember, we are recommending this to the City Commission. So it's a motion to recommend that this be added to the master plan. We have Emily or Commissioner Greenman-Wright with a motion. Can I get support for that motion?
Support.
Was that Ellis?
Yes.
Commissioner Ellis for that? Yeah, okay. Support by Commissioner Ellis. Okay, any discussion on the motion? Commissioner Greenman-Wright? No?
I actually did
Anyone
figure
else?
out what my audio problem were, so I can discuss if needed.
Fair enough.
Really wonderful work, Greg. Thank you so much for the really thorough and thoughtful presentation. It was.
Thank you. I would invite you, take a drive through here if you've not been through the neighborhood. You know, it's a good place to drive. Actually, it's a good place to get out of your car and walk. That's what a lot of people do here. So.
Any other discussion on the motion? I really appreciated the history, and you know, it is consistent with the current master plan and with the requirements of the ordinance. So thank you for that as well. And it is a nice place to go for a run too.
Oh, yeah.
So.
Yes, it is.
All right. I think we're ready for a roll call.
Ellis?
Yes.
Espinosa?
Yes.
Greenman-Wright?
Yes.
Milliken?
Yeah.
Patelko?
Yes.
Bias?
Yes.
Wisner? Derek, your audio is a little quiet. I see your lips moving yes, but just so you know, your audio doesn't seem to be on full. Okay, you're still on mute, so we'll have to fix that. Chambers?
Yes.
Okay. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for listening. and reviewing. Much appreciated.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, just so Derek, like mute. Oh, he.
I think I got it. Am I
Um,
on now?
Oh, yeah, there you are.
Figured it out.
Just in time for our annual meeting. Take it away. I'm not reviewing the annual report.
Right. Pete will be presenting.
Okay.
Yes, and I managed to work out my technical glitches too. Not that we need a shared screen for this, but we have one office in my house. So when I do Zoom meetings like this, I have to move my wife's stuff aside to make room for mine. But yeah, so with our annual report, we are a little late into 2020 due to our COVID-19 situation that we thought was going to be short-lived, which has continued to endure. So now we're doing our annual meeting in July, not in March or April. So we have stretched the 2019 annual report to include some of the activities going on in the spring of 2020. But just to hit some of the highlights on here, obviously we had some good board members that moved on last year, like Rachel Hughes Nielsen and Charlie Koss and Jack Bartman. But we were fortunate to bring on Sharday, Corrine, and Brian. So we're able to maintain a full board going into 2020. As far as our meetings go, we had 9 regular meetings in 2019 and 1 special meeting. We've had kind of a checkered response as we've gotten into 2020 with meetings being canceled and special meetings being set. So, but Christina and I really appreciate the commissioner's flexibility and accommodating our special meetings when those come up. So we've summarized all the requests like we typically do with the annual reports to identify the rezonings and special use permits, site plans that the Planning Commission has looked at, and street vacations and any other type of requests that have come before the board. And one new thing with the annual report this year is we also tied in the strategic vision goal alignment with each one of these items that's been before the board for review and approval, whether it's been a rezoning or a street vacation or a text amendment, to try to further cement our navigation of review and approval in conjunction with looking at the master plan and the strategic vision goals and making sure we're on that track and we're working towards fulfillment of those goals in actions taken by the Planning Commission. So I think it's a step in the right direction here. On page 2, as far as rezonings, the only one that was denied last year was the one related to the Lift Foundation Affordable Housing Project on Stockbridge Avenue. Obviously, as many of you know, they came back with another iteration of that project, and with that revised plan, it was possible for them to move forward with a minor variance from the commercial floor area on the ground floor level required in the commercial zone that property they've acquired along Stockbridge has. So that Lift Foundation Affordable Housing Project now has site plan review and is moving forward. Other notable items, I listed in here some of the neighborhood plans that have been reviewed and approved. Under the site plans that this board has looked at, we obviously look at anything that's in the WMU BTR park. The Planning Commission also looked at the demolition plans for the Sisters of St. Joseph Church. That was a very controversial topic. And the site plan was brought forward for the Bronson Hospital Cancer Center to take a look at that one as well. So as far as the planning division staff activities, I specifically wanted to highlight what's been going on with the site plan review committee and that review process, since that is a responsibility of the Planning Commission that's been delegated to staff. So I think this, the page 4, top of page 4, going through those first couple paragraphs related to the site plan review committee is significant. And it basically, just to summarize that, we did a big update of the whole site plan committee review process in 2018. It was fully implemented in 2019. The site plan review process is a 2-step process with a pre-site plan meeting and then a full site plan meeting. What used to be done with copies, full-size copies of paper site plans is now reviewed digitally. Comments are collected digitally using the Bluebeam software, and this process, which we had already had this in place before COVID-19, so now we can literally do the digital review with the in-house site plan review committee and push comments back and forth on a digital copy of the site plan, and then we can have Zoom meetings with the applicant and talk about the plan. So it's been very timely, I guess the best way to put it. One of the other highlights of 2019 related to the site plan review process was the posting of on the website of the site plans that are currently under review, so that they're accessible to anyone that wants to look at them. In addition to that, there's actually a notification feature where you can sign up to receive notifications of when any new plan comes up on the that web page, or you can just sign up for notifications of site plans in certain neighborhoods if that's all you're interested in. So we actually have a means of communicating, out information, for specific areas of the city when folks are concerned about new development in their area or near where they live or where they work. So that's been really nice. And lastly, the NFP ordinance that was passed brought about a new procedure where site plans are essentially go through a review, NFP site plan review process in conjunction with the regular site plan review process, so that there isn't anything missed as far as our natural features protection requirements as sites are redeveloped or new developments are proposed. And for 2020, one of the items looked at is an online map to highlight where these site locations are for various projects. So, and in summary, as far as site plan activity for 2019, there was 70 pre-site plans submitted, and then there was 59 full site plans submitted. So it's it's worked out extremely well. We continue to make improvements, as we move forward on that. Other notable items, as far as what staff's working on, there's the natural features protection, kind of the next steps with the public engagement going on for revision of the maps, and making sure that we have covered all the appropriate properties around the city with that natural features protection ordinance and the overlay. And Christina is fully engaged in the downtown zoning process right now of looking at the D1, D2, and D3 zone districts and appropriate geographic boundaries. And then next, what are the appropriate uses for each of those new zone districts that we approved late last year. So lots going on. And then hopefully we'll have a transportation planner in our department before long. So that's also in the works. So that is what I have for the annual report. Are there any questions on the annual report before we tiptoe on? Look at that. Everybody's like glazed over on that one, all those great highlights. So as far as the, just to touch on the site plan spreadsheet that we put together. And again, the reason we continue to feed out that information, the site plan spreadsheet, is to make sure that the planning commissioners who have delegated this responsibility to the city staff are fully in the know of all the projects in the pipeline that are either in for pre-site plan or for final site plan review. But in 2019, we had a number of projects. Just some of the big ones was the graphics packaging, new building and expansion on North Pitcher Street, the Bronson Hospital Cancer Center building on East Vine, K College's new natatorium, a new hotel on East Cork Street near I-94 called Avid Hotel. We had a number of medical marijuana provisioning centers constructed, or they located in existing buildings and fully renovated those sites. So we, that's been that economic turnaround that we had anticipated, by adopting these marijuana-related ordinances is starting to really show some impact. Highlights from the 2020 list. Not all these are approved yet, but we've got the Kelsey Credit Union is approved at the corner of Portage and Cork Street. Vandersam's Flower Shop earlier this year went through site plan review to expand their greenhouse area, so a big greenhouse addition. And graphics packaging had another building addition on North Pitcher Street that was a separate site plan, and another building addition and pipe bridge expansion on Harrison Street. So this is all part of their multi-million-dollar expansion going on, between Harrison and North Pitcher. And the Kalamazoo Farmers Market expansion on Bank Street was approved. And then there were some additional marijuana facilities that were also approved, mostly provisioning centers, some safety compliance, which are lab oriented, and some grow operations. So that's really the rundown on the site plan review spreadsheet, the annual report. I think at this point, I'll turn it over to Christina to talk about our required vote every year as far as the administrative authority.
Sure. So with the annual plan every year, or annual report, we ask the plan commissioners to renew their approval of our staff-run site plan review process. Pete gave you a bit of an update as to how it's been going, and I think for the most part, it's gone very well. You will also remember that the MEDC, Michigan Economic Development Council, provided the city with redevelopment ready status, redevelopment ready community, or RRC status, and part of that was because of our very smooth site plan process, which was done through the administrative process rather than through a plan commission approval phase. So with all of those things in mind, we would like to request from the plan commissioners that approval for another year to continue for staff to do this work on your behalf and continue to keep you in the loop.
For the sake of our newer commissioners, can you explain the criteria that bumps site plan review to the Planning Commission?
So the in the zoning code, anything that is developed in Western Michigan University's Business and Technology and Research Park, BTR, as what it's commonly referred to, that's at Parkview and Drake, south of Asylum Lake, and just west of Parkview Hills that we heard about. It was written right into the zoning code that anything that goes on in there comes through site plan. This past year, as Pete mentioned, there were a couple of projects that you all as commissioners requested be presented to you. They were still approved at the staff level because of the technical nature, but they were presented to you because of their unique nature, things that had to do with stormwater permits or unique stormwater situations, and some a large site demolition that you felt needed a presentation in front of your body. But the only thing that triggers in the zoning code is the developments in the BTR park. And each month, of course, you all also receive an updated list of site plans that have been that have gone on and where they are in their status. So we will always continue to keep you up to date.
I think the digital process you've adopted has been fantastic, and I really appreciate getting those links and getting those updates and being able to see those. And even in the face of this pandemic, still having nearly the same volume this year as last year is very impressive. And this board would not be able, we'd be major hurdles to that type of growth and development. And at a time now when we need economic growth and stimulus, I'm not in favor of throwing up obstacles. So I would say we keep the program as it is, and I'm certainly interested in opposing opinions, but I would say we keep it as it is and let you guys handle that work as you're trained to do. Any other thoughts? Do we need a roll call or just a voice vote? Or we need a motion?
Right,
do we even need a motion?
You need a motion first, and then Attorney Robinson, can you clarify if that is a roll call or a all in favor vote?
It is either way. It's either, you can do it either way.
Okay.
We'll just do all in favor then. All right. So I need a motion to I need a motion on the item of granting site plan review program administrative decision approval authority to staff.
So moved.
Motion by Wisner, support by Vyas, to give that authority to the staff. All in favor of the motion, raise your hand or say aye.
Aye.
All right. Any opposed? Do the same. All right. Approved. Thank you.
Okay, so this the last item in our annual meeting will also require some votes, and that has to do with our chairs. So every year we elect a chair, a vice chair, and a secretary. We're a little late, but we will do so again for a term that will hopefully run until spring of next year. So it's short. And what I'd like to do right now is I'll take each position individually. And I will first confirm with the existing person who's in that position if they're interested in running again, and then ask if there are additional nominations. And then we will take a vote for each of those. So starting with the chair position, Chairman Milliken is our current chair. And I don't know if he would like to throw his hat in the ring again for the next term.
I serve at the pleasure of the commission. So I am not unopposed to the idea, but
okay. So with that, I would be looking for someone to kind of officially nominate or support that, or throw in another name if that is of interest.
I nominate our current chair.
I enthusiastically support that.
Okay, are there any other names that we'd like to throw into the group? Okay, so with that, we will take a vote. I assume this can also be, this does not have to be roll call, correct, Attorney Robinson?
That's correct.
Okay, so all those in favor of Chair Milliken serving the next term, please say aye.
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 And all those opposed, same sign. Okay, so chair for the next year, Greg Milliken. So the next position
Thank you.
is vice chair, and Emily Greenman Wright has served as our vice chair for this past year. Emily, are you interested in renewing that term?
I humbly serve at the will of the planning commission, but I'm content to stay as co-chair.
Okay. Is there anyone who'd like to support that or nominate her?
I nominate Emily Greenman Wright to continue as vice chair.
Or throw any other additional names in? Do we have a second?
And I support that.
Any other names? Okay, all those in favor of Emily Greenman Wright serving a second term or the next term as vice chair?
Aye.
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 All those opposed? Okay, and last but not least, certainly, Chairman Wisner has served as secretary. Are you interested in throwing your hat in the ring again?
I would happily, but I would also happily step aside if anybody else was eager to take this vital role that I carry.
Would anyone like to nominate someone other than Commissioner Wisner or Commissioner Wisner? Somebody?
Nominating Commissioner Wisner as the secretary.
I support.
Support. Yep.
Any other names? Okay, with that, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 All those opposed, same sign. Okay, so our new chairs are the same as our old chairs.
Across the bears.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much.
And that concludes the business that we have related to our annual meeting, Chair Milliken.
Thank you. Thank you,
have
everybody.
a question. How many of us will be rotating off with the next term?
I can tell you.
Are we looking to replace commissioners shortly?
So terms expire generally in March of each year. So in 2021, those that are up because they served either partial terms or full terms, if I have my information correct. Emily, you are up next year. Mr. Pitts is up next year. And it looks like Corinne is up next year because I believe she was serving a partial term for someone who stepped off the board or, slid into a position that was a partial term. So that's what I have as up in March of 21. That's all.
All right. Good information. Thank you. Do we have any citizens' comments that were submitted?
Mr. Chair, we do not have any citizen comments for tonight.
Okay. And I don't No one's sitting in the audience, so no liaison here from the City Commission. Is there a City Planner's report?
I do have a couple items. To follow up on, so this fall, you will have at least two city-led zoning items come before this board for review and hopeful recommendation to the City Commission. The first, Pete mentioned that Natural Features Protection Phase 2 is about to kick off. City staff with a fantastic interns assistant who's really skilled at mapping from Western Michigan University, as well as the Natural Features Review Protection Board, have been doing research and studying the maps to propose an update to the NFP overlay. So they are putting some finishing touches on that draft document, and we'll begin public outreach on that in the next week and a half or so. So please watch for that. They will certainly be at lunchtime live on Fridays. So grab your mask and go get some food and give some input, but it'll also be available online through imaginekalamazoo.com. The other item is downtown zoning, as Pete also mentioned, and Commissioner Wisner requested that I give an update on this process in terms of timeline and activity. So as you recall, the downtown zoning kicked off in June, and we spent the first part discussing dividing what is now one large zoning district that covers all of downtown into 3 different districts. And so that was our first community input activity. Was we asked the community to take a look at map, do some walking tours to help give us feedback on how you would divide the one large district into 3 smaller districts. That activity has wrapped up, and we will be turning to our next activity, hopefully by the end of next week, which will be doing a review of uses in those 3 districts, as well as review of the dimensional standards, things such as height, location of driveways, parking lots, as well as where adult use marijuana businesses would be located in the downtown. If you recall, back in April, when adult use marijuana was before this board, it was decided to not take action with the greater city document, but save the conversation for this downtown focus conversation. And so that will be happening. Again, we hope to kick that off at the end of next week. There'll be a survey online, and we hope to also be at lunchtime live to get some feedback. You know, it's been noted a few times that this is a challenging period for us as we work to engage the community, but need to do it in different ways than what we may have done pre-COVID with our large format meetings. So downtown zoning, I still expect to be in front of this commission for review. And again, hopefully recommendation to the City Commission early this fall. NFP, the original NFP. Oh, I'm sorry, Chair Milliken.
One question: how does that process relate to what we did several months ago?
Sure. So several months ago, you guys approved the creation of 3 districts. Including uses and dimensional standards. And those are what we're going to be reviewing to confirm with the public now that it's been mapped. So those form the basis. Of course, we will need to add to those uses to make sure that things like adult use marijuana, or if there's anything else that has come up through the community process, gets consideration. But that forms a basis for those districts. The Natural Features Protection Ordinance, the original one, I should note, was just selected by the Michigan Association of Planning for a Planning Award of Excellence for environmental projects. And so that's pretty exciting news for us. If the MAP conference was happening live, we would receive that award in September. but since it is not, we get some sort of virtual slap on the back, which is great. I mean, we worked very hard on the ordinance, and if you recall, that was a pretty hefty public meeting, both at this level as well as City Commission. So there a lot of citizens were involved as well. So kudos to all. Final thing that I have is
if I may, and I don't want to rain on Christina's parade, and it's nice to get the award, but there was a tree protection ordinance that was adopted by Canton Township on the east side of the state, and our ordinance is, I don't want to say modeled after it, but there's a lot of similarities. Unfortunately, that Canton ordinance was challenged in federal court because it required a permit to take down trees and replace certain trees. It's been challenged in federal court and was struck down in part. So keep your eye, I'm keeping my eye posted on this, and we'll keep you informed as things develop. That case has been appealed by both the developer or the property owner, developer, and the Township of Canton to the Sixth Circuit. So it'll be interesting to see what happens at that level. But that's probably at least a year, maybe even a year and a half away. So I just want to bring that out, that while we're being recognized for doing something very proactive, other communities for doing something similar are being challenged, and they're having to defend their ordinances.
Thanks, Clyde. The last item I have is tomorrow evening. Speaking of engagement, we are going to be doing what I think is our first in-person engagement activity since COVID, which is pretty exciting. There will be a traffic calming informational meeting tomorrow evening in the Northside neighborhood in Lacrone Park, where we are going to be discussing the traffic calming solutions that the city is going to pilot or test in the North Side as a result of quite a bit of resident feedback for speeding issues in the North Side neighborhood. There will be, the meeting runs from 5:30 to 7:30, but we're doing it in like half-hour segments, so you can hear the presentation, see a demonstration of what it would be like to drive through the traffic calming device. We'll have somebody driving through it. And we'll run those every half hour between 5:30 and 7:30, so we can be mindful of number of people gathering, social distancing, please wear a mask, and hope to see you out tomorrow night. And that is all I have.
That'll be good to see and sort of learn. You'll learn a lot from tomorrow night. So good luck.
Yeah.
That'll be fun. Any questions, or we'll just merge them together into miscellaneous comments from planning commissioners?
I had a question for the city. Now, I know that a while back we did an approval with Lakeside, but because Lakeside lost their license and it's about to close, does that project just become null and void at this point?
So they received a special use permit, I believe. Am I remembering that correctly, Pete and Attorney Robinson, to allow the expansion of a school use in the RS5 district?
Yep. Well, the special use runs with the land, and they have to, I think, put up the building within a year. It's very possible that a new entity may come in and take it over and do something differently with it, but they would still be able to take advantage of that special use unless it expires without being acted upon.
Got it. Thanks.
Any other comments or questions? I can go around the Brady Bunch board, but I think I'll just.
I have a random observation, comment type of thing. For the staff report, I'm wondering if it will be possible when we're doing rezoning to have like the list of allow permitted uses for each one of the categories from where we're rezoning to, from one to the other. Kind of like a small table that summarizes, okay, on CC, this is what you can do. On CN1, this is what you can do. On RM36 is what you can do. So we can have kind of like a quick way of seeing all the possible usages that come with what we're doing. And I usually look into our table when we're doing it, but I think if it is summarized, especially for the public too, it will make a lot more sense when they're reading it and seeing what we're trying to accomplish.
We can provide the use table as part of the packet
Yeah.
or reference to it online.
Yeah, I mean, just a way that we can see it in a short, dense way.
Anyone else? Do we have a meeting next week?
No, there were no items for business next week, so that meeting has been canceled.
The August meeting is canceled. Great.
Correct.
Thank you very much.
I just wanted to say, make sure you vote. Thank you for the downtown, everything that everyone's been doing, especially with COVID and how we were already on track. So that's great news to hear. I'm happy to just go along with the rest of the year and see how we keep continuing to serve the public. So make sure you vote next week.
Great reminder. Thank you. Seeing no one jumping up, then I'll thank everybody for coming and wish you all an enjoyable August. And hopefully we'll see you after Labor Day.
Nope,
Be
before
safe.
Labor Day. Our meeting is technically, because of Labor Day being so late, and if we have scheduling issues, this is something we can talk about. But because Labor Day falls late, the first Thursday is actually before Labor Day. It's
all right.
Thursday the 3rd. So as it gets a little closer, we can reach out to make sure that's, we're all good with that. It's a little funky. That will certainly be virtual as well. Right now, virtual meetings run through, I believe, September 8th. Likely to be extended again, but right now through September 8th. But yeah, before Labor Day.
So we'll see you then.
Yeah.
Thanks for the clarification, though. Good. All right. Well, everybody be safe and be well. We'll talk then. Meeting is adjourned.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Good night.